Hello and welcome to Sports Mole's Football Shorts. I'm Barney Corkhill. I'm here with our football editor Matt Law, and today on the show we've got a very special guest, Sam Homewood. He's TV presenter and host of the Man United podcast. Thank you very much for joining us, Sam.
Thank you very much for having me.
Anytime. We do have to start with Manchester United being top of the league. It's just happened, obviously beating Burnley on Tuesday night, move ahead of Liverpool.
Yep.
The big question on every Man United fan's lips right now, and every football fan's lips really, is can they actually go on and win the title now this season?
So I think that's one of those really funny football situations where I don't even think that's a valid question. Of course they can go on and win the league because they are currently top of the league. So there's no, you always see that online. So we go, oh, can United actually, are they in a title race? No, they're leading it. Of course they are. They're front of that race currently. But you also have to remember, I suppose, Southampton have been top. Leicester have been top, Everton have been top. I think at one point Arsenal were top. Tottenham have been top of the league. Liverpool have been top of the league. City have almost certainly been top of the league at some point this season. So I think it's one of those things where you have to try to balance both emotions of, if you can't enjoy that you're top of the league, I don't know why you're watching football. I'm sure lots of people that are like, yeah, well, it's only 3 points. It's after 17 games and you don't win anything after 17 games. And I feel like that's what managers should be saying and that's what players should be saying. But if you're a fan and your only investment is the emotion, you should absolutely be buzzing that your team is top of the league, whether it was Everton or Southampton or right now, Manchester United. I'm loving it. I keep looking at the league table. I looked at it this morning for no other reason than to just be like, yeah, there we are. Love that. But that's why I'm not a player. That's why I'm a fan, because I'm caught up in the emotion. But that doesn't mean I absolutely 100% believe and I'm convinced that we will win the league. But I know that we could win the league. And I think there's a line there somewhere. Like if people want to say to me, you're an idiot, you were really happy when you were top of the league after 17 games and look where you are after 38 because it could all blow up. So, yeah, that's the point, isn't it? That's the ride. That's the fun of it.
I think the fact you mentioned it, Sam, I think it's 4 points between the top 5 teams at the moment, which says a lot, doesn't it? I mean, the Burnley game, personally, when I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, if we end up winning this game, it would be arguably a title-winning performance because, solid at the back and got the goal. And obviously, we've seen it years gone by, the great teams, the Ferguson teams, the teams that have won titles. Yeah. I mean, that Burnley game, for me, there was a lot of stand-up performances. I'll get your opinion on it, but I think Eric Bailly was fantastic. Maguire was fantastic at the back. And Pogba as well, and Matic. I think that's the team selection now, isn't it? The squad is looking very strong, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And it's like the Wolves game is another example of that, where we managed to find a win, even if it was looking difficult. And I think that's what you have to do if you're gonna sustain a challenge, is find those results. And I think we've done that this year. And the Burnley game was excellent. And what was, I think, really interesting is I tend to think in his midfield, Ole either plays Matic and Pogba or Scott McTominay and Fred. He very rarely mixes between those two. You don't often see Pogba and say Scott McTominay start or Fred and Matic. And I think what we've seen in the last few games is that Pogba's playing a little bit further forward. And the benefit of that is that everybody is so preoccupied with Bruno Fernandes that Paul Pogba has a little bit of space to be able to play. And he's got 3 goals in his last 3 away games. And I don't think that's a coincidence. And I know, for years, people have said, you've got to find the right players to play with Pogba and stuff like that. And, good players should always shine. But this is maybe one of those situations where we're going to see more from Pogba because Bruno Fernandes is there to carry the load. And actually, that's who everybody's worried about because he's the person making the most difference.
I was going to ask about Pogba. What's your opinion of him from a fan's point of view? Because obviously there was, Raiola coming out and saying his Manchester United career is effectively over. And since then, it seems to have just flourished. Pogba does. He seems to have had the opposite impact and he seems to become a important member of the team again.
Yeah, I think what agents say it doesn't. I know lots of people get really excited about it or really invested in it. It doesn't make any difference to me. Whoever's wearing the shirt is who I'll support. And I know there's such weird subcultures of fans that even now you'll get weird people on Twitter that are really passionately Ollie out. So because they can't accept that he's taken them to the top of the league. And do you know what? Even if you don't like the manager, surely you just support the team. Isn't that the idea? So Paul Pogba wears a Manchester United shirt. I want him to do well. And when he plays well, he's great, isn't he?
Oh, he's fantastic.
And he
Sam,
upsets loads of people, which I really enjoy.
if you're not upsetting anyone, then you're not doing anything right, are you? I think that goes for anything. But Sam, actually, I noted down this morning a team that I think might play, and I'd quite like to see on Sunday. I'll get your opinion on this. I've gone De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Bailly, Maguire, Shaw, Fred McTominay in midfield, Pogba off the left, Fernandes, Rashford, Martial. Obviously, that depends on Martial. I know he got a little bit of an injury. It looks like he might be okay for Sunday. But, I mean, Pogba off the left. I mean, you mentioned him further forward. I mean, Fred McTominay in midfield, he's probably going to go back to that, do you think, for Sunday?
Well, yeah, do you know what? I think he will. And I think sometimes, this is just me watching, I think sometimes our transitions are faster with Fred and Scott. So when teams sit deeper against us, like, say, like a Burnley, you know they're not going to come and throw counter-attacks at us. It makes so much more sense to have, say, Matic and Pogba, because they spend more time with the ball and would do a lot more with the ball. Whereas against a Liverpool, who are going to attack us a lot, Fred and Scott McTominay are probably perfect because they will move the ball so fast to our attacking players. So in a game like that, I think that's perfect. Whether he goes with Pogba on the left or no, I wonder if Mason Greenwood will start. I wonder, because he hasn't played that much in the last few games, and I wonder if it was a case of like, this is a game I'm saving you for. I think you can really shine in this. So that's a wonder I have. But sometimes, you know, we've played like a diamond. And people have asked Ole about playing a diamond, and he always says we never, you know, we play the same formation every single week. And I think in those games, Pogba often occupies that left-hand role, and I think he can do it really well. He's just obviously a different player to someone like Marcus Rashford, but nobody minds when Mata plays on the right, who obviously is again a very different player to if Rashford was to play on the right, for example, because he's not so fast, but he's very clever with the ball. So I think Pogba can do a great job out on the left.
Do you expect United and Solskjaer in particular to change his tactical approach at all for the game? Because obviously it's a completely different test against Burnley than it is against Liverpool. And Liverpool, as a Liverpool fan, I know we've struggled against pacing behind the back, and that's probably United's biggest strength, isn't it? With Rashford, if Martial's fit, Greenwood very quick as well. It would almost suit United to sit back a bit more and then try and hit Liverpool on the break. Do you see them changing their tactical approach at all?
I think we're fairly consistent. Actually, I think we're certainly our most dangerous against teams that come at us. And Marcus Rashford has a great record against Trent, doesn't he? Like when they've come up against each other, it's usually him that comes out on top. And I'm not saying that to try and discredit Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's obviously a phenomenal right back, but Rashford does have a very good record when they come against each other. And I think it will be potentially like, do you remember a few years ago we played City away? We didn't have a lot of the ball. We won the game 2-1. And it was just every time we went forward, we looked so incredibly dangerous. And I hope it's maybe a game a bit like that, where we're not that worried about where the ball is. It's just when we have it, we just storm forward. That's sort of what I'm hoping for, because it'll be really exciting if it is like that.
Sam, you mentioned Ole Gunnar Solskjaer earlier. Obviously, there does seem to be this strange thing at the minute of people still wanting him out. I can't understand it myself. You know, you talk about, I think the thing was United were labelled as a counter-attacking side, but now they're finding ways to win games, aren't they? Burnley, teams like that, they're going and winning away from home. I mean, I think Solskjaer's improved tactically, fantastic. He's obviously got the players on side. I mean, I'm not sure what people want more from him at this moment. You know, it's not worked with Louis van Gaal, Mourinho, all these big names, these experienced managers. And, I mean, for me, he's doing a fantastic job. I mean, look where they are in the league. The Champions League was obviously a disappointment and was unfortunate, maybe a couple of poor performances. But the job he's doing, it does seem bizarre, doesn't it? There's still people that want him out. Yeah,
I'm totally baffled by it. Also, I think it's really, really weird. And this only seems to come from pundits and journalists, I think, when they go, which other Premier League team would take Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? Well, it doesn't matter, because Manchester United aren't like any other Premier League team. They're a completely unique beast. So it makes sense that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer could manage them, because he understands the club inside out. When Zinedine Zidane took over at Real Madrid, people weren't clamouring for Zinedine Zidane because he hadn't done anything, but he understood Real Madrid immensely and was very successful there. And now people would want him. And I think it's really bizarre, but not the most surprising, because there's loads of people that look for, I don't know, sort of glamour or names, or it's like the idea of buying like signings. People get excited about signings sometimes beyond the, like, I don't think people were anywhere near as excited as I think they should have been about Edinson Cavani. He offers something completely unique to our forward line in that if you look at like traditional number 9s, that's exactly what he is and what we don't have. And his goals against Southampton, I think, showed that. They were goals that the crosses, that like the Rashford cross that he scored the winner from, a lot of people said, oh, brilliant cross. And it was a good cross. But it's not that the cross is like it's not like a David Beckham cross that's pinpoint to his head. Cavani makes the run and scores the goal. He's a different sort of forward. But people didn't want him because he wasn't the most exciting name being linked to Man United at the time. And I think that's kind of like what's happened with Ole. And I sort of hope now that Pochettino has a job, because people kept using that as a weird barometer of, well, you know, Pochettino's free, so that they'll stop and just get behind the man who's running the club. But it's weird. I mean, the thing I find most interesting, and Barney, I wonder what you think about this because you don't support United, is how Lampard is treated and how Ole is treated, and the scrutiny that they each receive. I think is fascinating.
I've said this.
It's really interesting. Even now, people are like, "Yeah, Lampard needs time. It's one of the best managers. Maybe he's the best young English manager we've got. Give him time, see what he does." And I totally agree that managers should have time. But I find it really weird that no one ever did that for Ole. No one ever said give him time. Everyone immediately was like, out of his depth, doesn't know what he's doing. Lampard came from the Championship to manage Chelsea. No one's ever said he's out of his depth.
Yeah, I suspect that's down to what Solskjaer had done in England before, and obviously Cardiff got relegated, and the only other, proper senior job he had was at Mould, and did well with them. But obviously United's a different stratosphere completely to them. I suspect it's down to that, whereas Lampard was fairly successful at Derby. But we've talked about this on the podcast already, that Lampard and to a certain extent Arteta weren't really questioned as quickly as someone like Solskjaer, because I don't think, I'm as a rival fan speaking, I don't think Solskjaer's the man to get you back to your former glories, and I'm happy with Solskjaer being in charge of United.
Are you happy being second, Barney?
Do you know what I think this is like? Do you know what I think this is like? I think this is like when Leicester were winning the Premier League, and people would just go, well, Tottenham will win it, or City will catch them. Leicester won't win the league. Leicester won't win the league. Why? Because it's Leicester. Yeah. And there's not enough basis that I can see to justify it, because Leicester were winning the league because they were the best team and they did win the league. But right up until they won it, people would still go, "Nah, Leicester won't do it. It's Leicester. They can't keep winning games." Yeah, it's Leicester. But just saying, and I think that's the same with Ole. I don't see, because I think season by season, I think he's gaining about 10 points, which means in about 2 seasons we'll be winning. We'll be getting about 90 points a season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Whereas if you look at,
so go on.
Compare that to the other clubs around, the progress at United is very clear. But because we haven't won trophies, which is important, obviously, I think sometimes we don't want to see it. But if we continue on that path in a few years, because this is a weird season, there's no doubt about it. And if United won the league this season, it's a weird season. But in 2 years, we might well be properly contenders and winning sort of 95 points a season. And if you do that, you can't argue with it.
Yeah, I'd maybe argue you've probably had the players to have done that with like Pogba, Rashford, even earlier than you are doing it now. I think Solskjaer is proving a lot of people wrong, including myself at the moment, but he does always seem to get to a stage where he is close to losing his job and then goes on a really good run, and then they start dipping again. If he can keep up this level of consistency, absolutely, you're right that he deserves a bit more credit. But for me, you look at the semi-final.
If you exclude goalkeepers, that's it. That's a good point. But if you exclude goalkeepers, United have, by starting 11 average, United have the second youngest team in the league.
Yeah.
And I think you have to consider that when you look at consistency, because young players will make mistakes.
Yeah.
And will do things that they shouldn't do. I don't know. I think there's a really good basis for success, and that Solskjaer's putting it in. The semi-final thing I think is weird. And I thought this the other day, because for example, if last season we got to 3 semi-finals and we didn't win them, and against Sevilla, I mean, we battered Sevilla for 90 minutes. We just could not score a goal. So it's difficult. But say if we got to a quarter-final, a semi-final, and got knocked out of the FA Cup in the 3rd round, nobody would use that lack of trophies as anything. But because we reached 3 semi-finals, which to some extent is a measure of success, to stay in those competitions for that length of time, it actually becomes a negative.
I think there's something.
So I'm not entirely. There's a narrative there, but I'm not entirely sure it has merit. But I understand the narrative. I'm just not entirely convinced by it.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of things to be excited about. Obviously, we've seen Amid Diallo come in now to the club, and you mentioned the young players at the sub. Mason Greenwood, players like that. It's someone like Scott McTominay as well, who is, for me, encapsulates everything that a Manchester United player should be. Maybe he's not the best technically, but he gives everything. He's improved. He's committed. And I mean, I was running through the fixtures and the game's coming up, Sam. You're talking about a big period. I mean, they play Fulham after this game, and Fulham recently have been really tough to beat. Obviously, held Tottenham last night, play Sheffield United at home, potential banana skin, and then Arsenal away. So maybe over the next rest of January, we might find out. People say, oh, they're not title chances, they're top of the league. But I mean, we might find out a lot about United, won't we, over the next few weeks?
I think you're right. I mean, we could easily, we could go to. We haven't lost yet away all season, but just because something continues doesn't mean it continues forever. We could very easily go there and lose. Then everybody else catches up a little bit because the points are so close. And then, you go on a run of games, and before you know it, you're fourth again. That's definitely possible. But even if that happened, I still think the progress that we're making is there and is clear. And I don't think we're going to have one of those seasons where we're like chasing towards the end of the season to try and get ourselves into those Champions League places. I think we're a very good footballing side, and people can see that. And I think people, when they play us, are now offering. I think people used to come to Old Trafford the last few years. Let's say if you played for West Brom or whatever, I think you turn up and you go, "I'm gonna get a winner. We can get a result here at Old Trafford." That's exciting. I don't think that happens anymore.
No, I don't know.
I don't think it's in people's heads in the same way. And I think that's massive. Like the mindset the players have when they turn up to play Manchester United. If you're looking at it as an opportunity to tell people, "Oh, we beat Man United," or even like, if I do well today, I might be able to give myself a move. I can get a couple of goals against Manchester United. That'll be good. I don't think that exists anymore. Not in the way that it used to.
Sam, I think a lot of the credit should go to Solskjaer as well for that, but for improving certain players. I mean, off the top of my head, players like Luke Shaw, for me, recently has been, because he's had his injury problems, he's been fantastic. He's improved. McTominay, Fred, another player. For me, Fred is now, an absolute certainty for the top games, the things he offers. I mean, the improvement that he's made about the players in the team. It's all right buying players and buying him, but you have to improve what you got. And for me, Solskjaer's done that, definitely.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. I mean, even if we look recently at Eric Bailly, the games he's having are phenomenal. And we've always known there was a lot of capability in Eric, but he was never able to put, I think 4 games was his best ever run. And that was like 2017. But so even just managing him and keeping him fit is something. But you're right. I think the players have improved. Luke Shaw in particular, since Telles came in, fantastic, I think giving him that bit of competition is giving him a lot. Also, I think Martial is a much better player. Marcus Rashford is a much better player. And a part of that comes with them getting older. But you're right, he is improving players. And I'm not sure he gets the credit for his coaching in that respect. Fred is the big one though, isn't he? Because
fantastic.
Yeah, to pick up on that mindset point you made, do you think there's now going to be a flip of mindset now that United are going into this game at the weekend, top of the table? How important do you think that is? And obviously it's been a while. Was it since 2012 or since Fergie was last there, 2013, maybe when you won the title, that you were last top of the league at this stage of a season? Do you think, obviously, so far this season, all the talk has been, it's been a bit of a surprise title challenge, but now you're leading the way. And as you say, from a fan's point of view, you're thinking, of course, we're top of the table. Of course, we're in the running for the title. Do you think there's a flip of mindset with the players where they maybe go into these games really thinking certainly they can win now and then push on and maybe consider a victory at Anfield would be a real sign that they can go and win the title?
I think the main difference in mindset is I think this team has something that great teams always need and have, is I think this team absolutely always believes they'll get another chance to score. And I think that's massive. In what, 6 of our games, I think, that we've played away, we've gone behind in and won, which is which in itself is, I think, a record for number of times going behind in an away game and winning already in this at this point in the season. It's phenomenal. And I think that mindset is the difference. So if we go to Anfield and we go 1-0 down, there might have been times before where it would have been like, all right, well, let's get this done. Let's get the game finished. And I don't know that for sure, obviously.
But that was also
now,
in the
I think,
relatively near past, wasn't it, as well? It's been quite a recent change, well, maybe even just this season. So where do you think that's come from, that change in mindset?
I mean, the big difference is, I think, is the team that you see now playing. some of those players you can say have been there a while, but it's actually, I think, a relatively newly formed team. Harry Maguire was made captain. This is only his second season.
Yeah.
His defensive partnerships are swapped between, we're seeing Baye a bit more at the minute, Victor Lindelof. That's a new partnership that has to be allowed to develop. Luke Shaw is finally able to be fit and playing very well. Aaron Wan-Bissaka only came in, 18 months ago, because he came when the summer that Harry Maguire came. So you've got a back four that have had, at absolute best, a year and a half together, which is no huge amount of time. Then you look into the midfield and, we talk about Fred, Scott McTominay, Matic and Paul Pogba, and there's a development of which partnerships work, which ones don't, which are appropriate for which games, which players have a natural bond, how do we get the best out of these players? And then Mason Greenwood is, I think, hugely important. Cavani came in this season. So it's a really new team. So you could say, well, what was Ole's team like 2 years ago? Well, it wasn't this.
Yeah.
Because it didn't have these players. I think that's really important, is if people are going to say, well, compare, Ole 2 years ago, he was having a nightmare. But do you know what? He had different players. And I think he's done even when we were playing with like Lukaku as centre forward, the approach to games was different. The way of trying to win was different. And having the team that he's built now, and this is Ole's team, and I think that's the difference, is we've had a lot of managers in a short period, which United have never really had. And if you look at when Chelsea had that, their team was always the same. It was always Cech, Terry, Carvalho, Cole, Lampard, Drogba, and then a few players would move around, sometimes Ballack, Shevchenko, and so on, like Florent Malouda. But the core of the team was always there. United have got a totally different core to the one they had like 2 years ago, by calendar 2 years, not by seasons.
Yeah.
So I think that's massive in terms of the attitude of this team and the way they are approaching games. And I think they will believe in each other, which is massive. And then, of course, you add into that Bruno Fernandes, and that changes everything. We're top of the league. I know it's not a real league, but in terms of since he joined the club, we've almost played 38 games, and United are top of that league. And I don't think that's an accident. And I think that's where you look at how well a club are doing, especially after 17 games in a season. Because we talk about Leicester again. When Leicester won the league, they were top of a 12-month league for ages leading into that, from when they started pulling themselves out of relegation. And all of a sudden, you go, it's not just this season. From like Project Restart, United were the team that were beating everybody. So I don't think it's some sort of flash in the pan, or we've done it over the last 17 games. Because actually, I think this has been building and going on, you could say probably since the likes of Harry Maguire came in, and the team started to be formed the way Ole wanted them. And now they're starting to play the way he wants them to play. And those little mistakes that cost you games and cost you points are starting to vanish, because they're playing more often together. And more often than not, we see the same team. And I think United have got a really good bench. And I think that's one place we might have the benefit this season, is I think we might have the strongest bench in the league. You might look at, do you think so too?
Oh, I completely agree. Yeah, you look at the benches. I mean, it's almost world class, that bench at times, isn't it? You're talking about on Sunday. Yeah. I mean, you're looking at. I think what you mentioned, the point you made earlier about Cavani. I mean, for me, it's not about Cavani's goals. It's what his movement inside the box, open space for Pogba, Fernandes. That's not. I think there's a lot of way we can hurt teams now, and I think the difference in the previous, like you say, it was a more of a counter-attacking side, couldn't break teams down. But for me now, you can hurt teams a lot of ways. And I mean, if I had to put you on the spot, Sam, give us a score prediction for Sunday. I mean, personally, Barney and I run a prediction competition on Sportsmo. I'm absolutely destroying him purely because he doesn't ever back Liverpool to lose. So I'm personally going to be backing a 1-1 in this game. And obviously, I would love to go there and win, but a point would be good. I mean, what's your score prediction for Sunday?
Yeah, 1-1 seems reasonable. I think, I think that seems like a good. I mean, I don't expect us to win, but in exactly the same way that I don't expect us to lose, because we've managed our away games so well, and also it's Liverpool aren't the same Liverpool they were last year, and I mean that's part of the reason why United are top of the league. We can say how well United are doing, but also Liverpool are 25 points? Are they 25 points worse off or something mad like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And that's shown in the way they're playing. So I think we've got a really good chance to go and sneak a win. And the mindset will be, I think, with the United players to go out there and get a win. And I think like we've seen Klopp moaning about penalties, which we didn't see from him last year. When they were just winning games, he was very content, was fairly gracious, quite happy. That sort of big, sort of charming, laughy guy that everybody likes. But now there's a little bit more pressure, and we're seeing that. And it'll be interesting to see how Liverpool deal with that, because they haven't been in. This is a totally new situation for Liverpool. And what's it been, 7 years or something? 8 years since someone won the league twice in a row?
Yeah.
Man City won it a couple of seasons ago, didn't they?
Yeah.
Twice in a row.
I mean, Barney, you're going to be back in, back in 4-0 Liverpool?
Yeah,
Barney will be back in 4-0 Liverpool Sunday.
No,
so
I would be lying if I'm a little bit concerned about United's pace against what could be Henderson and Fabinho at centre-back again.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Matip might be out again, doesn't it? So
yeah, I think Matip will be out, and won't be surprised if Phillips or Reece Williams comes in. But who Matip?
Yeah, I'm not sure who'd play. I think it would be Scott and Fred anyway.
Yeah,
but obviously it's still not ideal to have.
Yeah.
That.
Sam, can we speak about the podcast, the United podcast, quickly? Obviously, it's in terms of your career, your TV career, is it the most, maybe not the most proudest, but is it the best thing you've done? I mean, obviously David May, Helen Evans, the show. I mean, I've listened to a lot of them. They're incredibly enjoyable. You know, Mickey Thomas was on recently, Fernandez, Rashford. I could go on and on. I mean, for you, is it the best thing you've done, the most enjoyable thing you've done?
It is ridiculous fun. Like when we did Wayne Rooney,
I saw that. Yeah,
December, I think. Yeah, just before Christmas, we did Wayne Rooney, and it's one of those things where I'm sat there just chatting to Wayne Rooney. Like before we were even recording, we're just sat there having a chat. I think this is madness, and you sort of have to remember, like, there's people you get to meet and talk to that I don't know. Idolise is maybe strong, but yeah, probably did when I was a kid. And you think, no, we're just having a chat, and it's all fine. And I don't know, it feels like a real privilege to get to do it, and it is immense fun. And everybody has been so nice. I mean, there's a few people in lockdown that we might not have been able to talk to, or we would have travelled out to go and see, but we've been able to do it on Zoom, which has been great. Like Patrice Evra's on Zoom was one of the first ones we did on Zoom. And we were really worried that without sitting down and talking in person, you lose that like natural sort of rapport. So we don't open up so much, because I think the best thing about them is they're not really about football. But they are about football, but they're about that person's life story, and that person is a footballer. So inevitably but it's not like, oh, what's the best goal you ever scored?
Yeah.
What's the best game you ever played in? What do you think of this formation? That's nothing to do with it. And so to sit and talk to those people, and so with Evra, I thought we might lose some of that, but he was amazing, and because he had nothing else to do, he spoke to us for like 2 hours, because it was back in the first lockdown. We thought, oh, we might get 40 minutes from him, and that'd be great, but he had literally nothing to do, like everyone else. So he just talked, and he told some stories that he hadn't divulged in the media before. It was amazing.
What was it Evra told that? Was it on Sky Sports? He told that story about Henry when he went to his house or something, and he had to turn off because Granit Xhaka was captain.
Oh, yeah.
Was that it sort of comes out with some strange stories, doesn't he, sometimes? What's it like doing the match days at the moment, Sam? Obviously, with the lockdown, the coronavirus, there's no fans in there. I mean, how difficult is it doing that? Obviously, you're still doing the presenting, and it's fantastic, but we got to get the fans back, haven't we, as soon as safely as possible? Yeah,
it's so weird. To begin with, at the start of the season, I thought, what have I done? Like, it felt like a real honour, joy, privilege, something like that, to be able to go to the games, and no one can go and watch their team, and I get to go and watch my team. And then I realised that maybe I was being punished, because at the start of the season we were losing at home to Palace, Spurs, Arsenal, and I was at all of those games, and I was thinking, maybe it's not so great coming to watch. And then it all changed, and it's so much fun, and it's really cool to be able to go and watch. And I think one day it'll be something that I'll be able to be like, do you know what? When the whole world was unable to go and do the thing everybody does most, I was able to do that, and that's really cool. But I absolutely cannot wait until fans turn up. I think the Leeds game is a really good example of the problem with that. Is that's a big game. United and Leeds hate each other brilliantly in the way that like you have in football. But no, the problem is they haven't played each other for so long that none of the players feel that. Although the game was great, and it was 6-2 obviously, and it was a completely mad game of football, the atmosphere that should have existed around that game can't exist without the fans. And we keep getting City all the time. I mean, we've got Liverpool twice in the next 10 days.
Yeah.
And it won't be like United-Liverpool. It just won't be. And it can't be, because the thing that makes it United-Liverpool is the fans. If you're just watching on telly, there's whatever. But if you've got 70,000 people screaming at every tackle, it changes the game entirely. And I cannot wait till they're back.
Even with 2,000 in, you got that sense, didn't you? Even when 2,000 were allowed in.
Well, we haven't had that at Old Trafford,
Yeah.
Because Manchester was never tier 2. But in other games, obviously, you just get something. You get a little bit of... It just gives the game a little bit more life, I think.
Yeah. All right, Sam, we could talk to you all day, but I'm afraid we've run out of time now. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Sam.
My pleasure. Sorry, I feel like I just talked aimlessly there.
That's great to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, in the nicest possible way. I wish you a very miserable Sunday.
Thanks very much, and you too.
Matt and I will be back tomorrow for our predictions competition, including obviously that Liverpool versus Manchester United game, top of the table battle, which should be a cracking game. In the meantime, you can find previews for all Premier League games, Championship and many more leagues over on sportsmore.co.uk. You could subscribe to this podcast on all the usual channels and on YouTube to make sure you don't miss an episode. So we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for joining.